Welcome. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you for listening. Peep the tin cup. You already know. Thank you for listening. Share the show. Let's get started. Now, normally, as is customary when you're being fake and phony, you're supposed to say, I hate to be the one to say I told you so. But when you're strategizing and it's good news, it's good to do a little gloating. A little gloating when it comes to political news or just news and information gives you validity in the future, right? You being able to say, hey, I told you this was going to happen. I told you that was going to happen. Whether or not that's good news or bad news is dependent on whether or not you listened. But I told you this was going to happen. Prepare accordingly. All right. So what we're going to do now is do a little brief recap. Just a little simple recap. This is why I numbered my episodes. Right. And I told you guys a while ago. I said, the Democratic Party feeds an entire black political economy full of black politicians, full of black businessmen, full of black political action committees and advocacy groups that make money fundraising off of black votes, that make money Negro whispering to white people about what black people are thinking and doing and how to manipulate us, that make money rallying us to their cause every 4 to 2 years, right? And I told you how doing something as simple as just not voting, as not capitulating, doing something as simple as that is going to undermine that entire economy. And you're going to start seeing all these Negro whisperers get fired. All of them get demoted, pushed off into YouTube, lose their connections. And at this point, the average black voter will realize that the only reason you've been told to vote so bad and to vote so hard is because they need you to vote, not because the voting is going to benefit you or change your life in any kind of way. I told you exactly how this was going to break down. I told you that once these people start losing these votes, once it becomes clear that they don't have the sway over black people like white folks think they did, once it becomes clear that they can't change this red tide, the Democratic Party is going to see all these black folks as useless and cut their losses. They're nothing to them, right? And sure enough, the midterms haven't even come. It's not even official yet. But because they read them polls, like I told you before, white folks do not see black people unless it's on a spreadsheet. Because they're reading them polls and seeing that black folks are not coming to save them. Like I told you it wouldn't happen. Remember, I told you from the beginning what the first phase of this plan was, which was do nothing. And I told you how easy it was going to be to do nothing. Have you had to do a single campaign to get black folks to not vote? No. Have you had to go out and tell other black folks, we're not voting this year? No. You haven't had to say anything. And yet we're getting the results we want. Why is that? Because I told you from the beginning, black folks do not show up for the midterms. Most people don't show up for the midterms, and black people are no exception. And if anything, are the best example for that rule, right? We don't show up for the midterms. We didn't come for the midterms during Obama, who we were very enthusiastic about. But if you look at 2008's midterms, we didn't show up. And I told you that the strategy was to pull a Sun Tzu. You don't have to do everything all the time to take the credit for it. We already know this thing, us not voting, is going to happen. What we have to do to benefit from that is to ride the rails of the why. Now, in reality, niggas ain't coming out voting in the midterms because niggas don't vote in the midterms. But they're so desperate, and what it looks like is often as important, if not more important than what it is, perception is reality. They know they need the black vote. So we get to use the fact that we don't come out anyway as a bargaining chip to go, we chose not to come out. We chose not to come out because of Democratic policies. We chose not to come out because we're unhappy with the Democratic Party's rule. And the thing that makes us serious is the action of inaction, of us not coming out. All this time, the Democratic Party thought black folks was just playing. And yeah, we was a little bit mad and let them get it off their chest. But once election time comes around, they'll quote unquote get in line. That was the big plan. We're going to scare people enough to let them know that democracy's on the line and we got to do this and that. And there's white supremacy at the gates. And we'll scare them enough and shame them enough to get in line. If that doesn't work, we'll start to single out black men and shame the black men. And none of this has worked. Election time is literally days away. And what did I just get done telling you a few days ago? The Democratic Party has been using underhanded tactics, using them alphabet boys, intimidation and censorship throughout the internet, as admitted by platform owners like Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's show, that them boys came and talked to him and told him what he could and shouldn't put up on the internet that would hurt a certain party's chances. Your Democratic Party has been blocking third-party candidates all over the country for the reason being none other than it'll hurt our election chances, right? Ain't no damn democracy on the line if you're limiting democracy. You're the person threatening democracy, but that's a whole nother story entirely. The point is, the Democratic Party is extremely desperate, not just because of the upcoming election losses, because in the fashion that they're about to lose. See, it's one thing to lose because your opponent has more enthusiasm than you. But it's another thing to lose because your opponent has more enthusiasm than you because your base has no enthusiasm. You never want to be in a position politically where you have to go win back your base. You should be always in a position politically where you have your base firmly squared away and you use your base to expand your base. You use your base. Your base should be so enthusiastic that they're going out spreading the good word of your election for you, trying to convert people. You need people to be evangelists. But when your base don't rock with you, you know people on the outside aren't even going to look at you. Your baby mama leave you, you can forget about hoes, right? So here we are with the Democratic Party, more desperate than it's ever been. And the first thing it's starting to do is to start bitterly disciplining and cutting off its black coon underlings. And one of the first people to go, this is always why you got to be careful who you're talking about when you're owned by Massa, because once Massa cuts you off, you can't come back. Look at Tiffany Cross. Look at Tiffany Cross. Tiffany Cross, formerly of MSNBC, has been fired in the most disrespectful and dismissive way. They didn't give her the Katie Couric, Megyn Kelly outage where she's decided not to resign. No, they let you know they fired her. And that's done as a warning to the other coons. You remember a couple years ago when, what's that other coon on that show? Joy Reid. Y'all remember when Joy Reid magically, some comments she had made 1 billion years ago about homosexuals and stuff like that came out, and they put that out there? That was a warning to her. That was a warning from her powers that be. Hey, bitch, we still got on deck what you said, and at any point in time we can bring this up and use this as a reason to let you go and put you in a bunch of controversy on your way out the door. Now you better make sure you toe that damn line and say the shit we want you to say, or things can be a problem for you. You notice that? The day after that came out and she did her little apology, she got right back on board saying what they told her to say. She knew better than to piss them people off. It's a real cutthroat game. The return on investment for cooning, the inflation rate has gone up. You got to tap dance. There's a whole lot of blood and a whole lot of tap shoes right now all over the black economy in politics right now. They're shaking in their boots. Roland Martin been in exile since he slipped Hillary Clinton them questions. A lot of these coons been off the main table for a while. And something like what just happened to Tiffany Cross. Remember, Tiffany Cross is a few weeks removed from straight up telling black people, black men in particular, don't listen to them niggas over there. Do what the Democratic Party tells you. Literally said the phrase, fall in line with black women. And now her ass is out of line. Her ass is out of a job. That should let you know how dire of straits not only the black coon class is, but how dire of straits the Democratic Party is. Now, I just told you last episode, I said this is the last hurrah for the coon class. This is the last chance they have to prove their worth. That talking down, that dressing down, that's what white folks in politics say when they mean somebody getting cussed the fuck out. That dressing down that them black people were getting from an incoherent, babbling, demented Joe Biden, telling them, y'all, you people better get behind the Hispanics. I'm not doing shit for y'all. When he was talking to black folks in that room and that recording that got released, he was talking to the coon class. That was the coon class he was talking to. He wasn't talking to no strong black leadership. He was talking to the coon class that was asking him for something that they could give back to the black constituents to lie and say, well, Joe Biden's doing something. And he said, you go make that shit up. I'm dealing with Hispanics and Ukrainians and Afghanis right now. I'm not dealing with no niggas. I want to make that note. Even the coons were upset with Joe Biden's lack of initiative and lack of action when it came to black people, because even coons understand that you have to give niggas something. Right? You can't just sell crackheads baby powder. You can't just sell crackheads baking soda. Like you got to give crackheads something. You can call crackheads all day, but crackheads are nothing if they're not loyal, consistent customers, right? You got to give your people something. And Joe Biden's insistence on giving black folks absolutely nothing and making it clear I'm giving you nothing leaves black folks with no choice but to not rock with him. It's almost a triple dog dare at this point. So you gave coons absolutely nothing to work with, and then expected them to make I damn near feel bad for the coons if they weren't abhorrent sellouts. There's a small part of me, just because she's a black woman, that feels bad for Tiffany Cross. And then I remember what she was saying. Now, I told you guys this was going to start happening. Now I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next and how to take full advantage of this. The Democratic Party is going to lose badly. How badly? And I'm in my 40s. I'm damn near in my 40s. I've seen a lot of elections. I'm very aware of the ebbs and flows and the patterns of an election. Midterm, presidential, state, local. I know the beats. I know what happens when a party is losing badly. We're now at the point of what they call managing the L. What is managing the L? This is where the Democratic Party, see, when you're in office, no matter how bad you're doing, no matter how high the inflation is, no matter how high the gas prices are, no matter how high the unemployment or low the unemployment, no matter how high or how low your approval numbers are, you can always tap dance around those. You can always find some way to word the stats in a way that makes it sound like you're not doing as bad of a job or you're doing a good job. Our unemployment numbers are the lowest they've been in 10 years, even though it's because people just gave up applying for jobs. You know what I'm saying? Our gas prices have gone down in the last 6 months. They've been going up steadily for the last 12 months, and then they went down one penny in the last week. And you can always find ways around that stuff. But the one thing you can't dance around that well is getting voted the hell out. When the tally comes up and it's 1 for Martin, 2 for Martin, 1 for Bart, there's no way around that. You can recount all you want. And what you have to start doing is managing the L, explaining to your constituents and the world at large why you lost. And you can never, ever, ever say, because our policies suck, or because we didn't do enough, or because we didn't take care of our constituents. We kowtowed to the wrong people. You can never say things like that. What you have to say is what the Democrats normally say, is that we had a messaging problem. We weren't able to adequately explain to our constituents how much we've done. And if only they'd have been smart enough to listen, and we'd have been good enough orators to explain all the benefits they've gotten, then people's eyes would be opened and their heads would be turned around about it. The second way to manage the loss is to say, well, it's tradition. Historically, the incumbent always loses some seats in the midterms. That's always going to happen. You see, but here's the problem with that. You've made it very clear this wasn't a regular midterm. You've made it clear that Joe Biden's candidacy wasn't just on the line, that democracy itself was on the brink of collapse if Joe Biden, the savior, isn't allowed to ascend further into his presidency. When you put something that hard on the line and the people still vote against it, you've gone so deep in the rhetoric pile, you've officially crossed the Rubicon. You're at the point of no return now. You can't sit back and say, these MAGA Republicans do not represent America. These MAGA Republicans are the enemies of America. And if we allow them to take over, they'll not only take over our government, but they'll ruin and destroy democracy as we know it as Americans. And this will be the end of America. And then the American people democratically vote for them. Now, what do? See, now you're in the position where you have to peacefully hand over power. Now you're in the position where you have to show grace and say, well, we lost fair and square. Let me show you around your new office. You won. You beat me. You made me say Mate. Now you're in that position. But see, you've never said, this is my friend across the political aisle. They don't say that shit. See, when they used to say that, that would sound corny, but that was to keep some level of decorum and civility within politics. But when you start openly saying that your opponent is the enemy, see, we've been talking so much about people using the wrong kind of speech that's not allowed, that can incite riots or incite people to violence. What happens when you've been steadily feeding your constituents a diet of MAGA Republicans are the enemy and must be stopped no matter the cost? And then your constituents start seeing MAGA Republicans democratically win office everywhere. What are they going to be inclined to believe needs to happen? It goes both ways. But like I told you, getting back to black, the strategy for us was very simple. We allow our black people to do what they were naturally going to do anyway, which is not do a damn thing. We're not coming to the midterms. Step two was to then use that fact to tell white people in power, we're not coming unless XYZ. This has never been about the midterms for us. We knew we weren't coming to the midterms, but they didn't know. But now that they see black folks aren't coming to the midterms, they got a problem on their hands. This is all about 2024 and beyond. Every move the Democratic Party has made, from blocking third-party candidates to trying to make up charges on Trump so they can make him where he can't run for president again, everything they've been doing has been undermining democracy in order to jerry-rig something to be a certain way. I have to be very careful how I say that, right? I only got 2 strikes left on this channel. But anyway, if you do all of that and still lose in grand fashion, what's your plan for 2024? There's going to be no way around niggas. Think about this. Black folks are the only people that you can honestly say you haven't done shit for. The Democratic Party can honestly turn around to most other constituents and go, hey, Hispanics, we gave you XYZ. Asians, what the hell are you doing not coming up, showing up? We gave you guys a whole goddamn hate crime bill. Gays, you better sashay your asses to them polls. You owe us. Afghanis, Ukrainians, nigga, you guys better come fresh off the train voting for Democrats. We done gave you billions of dollars. Joe Biden just snapped at the Ukrainian president a few days ago. Oh, you niggas is ungrateful. I just signed a check for y'all for a couple $2 billion. You already asking for more? I got American soldiers, boots on the ground right next to your border. I'm over here moving nuclear weapons on NATO borders for you. And you asking for more? Like you just expect? Get the hell out of here. And all these other groups, because they understand politics, they don't feel that they're entitled to or owe the Democratic Party a damn thing. And they don't. But black folks literally got nothing. Nothing. Your president and your vice president, both as a policy and a stance, let you know the minute they got sworn in. And I'll give Kamala her credit. She at least told you beforehand, because she doesn't really understand politics. She didn't know you're not supposed to say that right up front. But she told you, I'm not going to do something that's only for black folks. I'll do something only for Asians. I'll do something only for Indians. I'm not going to do nothing only for black folks. No. The Democratic Party shunned Ice Cube for even talking to Republicans, but at the same time refused to talk to him. The Democratic Party at the time had an army of black women attacking any black man who dared to go, and I'm not even paraphrasing when I say this, this is a literal quote, who dared to go talk to, quote, the other side. Think about that for a minute. It's considered normal in politics for black people not to talk to the other side of a two-party system. Just think about that for a minute. So now that we're finally here, it's something I told you was going to happen episodes ago. Now that we're finally here, we can start to implement phase 2. Now, phase 1 was don't do anything, right? This plan is as simple as a old underwear gnome's plan, right? Step 1, collect the underwear. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, profit, right? This is real simple. Phase 1 was don't do anything and take the credit for not doing anything. The hard work in that was having new black media produce the narrative that the reason black folks aren't voting in the midterms is not because we traditionally don't vote in the midterms, but because we're upset about something. And you guys did an excellent, new black media did an excellent job of that. And normally, I give the gold star of New Black Media Award either to TD Hip Hop Media, who's an unsung hero. That brother is a true ally. He's a Haitian American that puts in serious work. If you ever hear any black immigrants or descendants of black immigrants in America say, how can we be good allies? We don't want to be tethers. How can we be good allies? Study TD Hip Hop Media. If all of you niggas was like TD Hip Hop Media, we'd never have a problem with y'all. We'd never have a problem with y'all. He don't kiss up to black Americans. He's in America, so he understands what team he's on. If we were all in Haiti right now, I'm not Haitian, but guess what team I'd be riding for? Now, normally I give the gold star to Phil Scott because he's by and large one of the largest new black media platforms. He knows how to carry himself. He's very deliberate, but very discreet. He covers his bases. He has citations. He set up his platform to where he has sponsors. He's big time. Remember, Phil Scott, and I'll repeat this again because this was a great moment in modern black history. Phil Scott is the man that cracked open the Amber Geiger case. If it weren't for Phil Scott, they would have swept that case under the rug. He cracked that case, and he did an excellent job pushing the narrative. He was very consistent pushing the narrative about why black folks are not coming to this year's midterms. So phase one was excellent. Normally I give the award to Phil Scott, but in a last minute Hail Mary, the winner of the leader of the New Black Media Award for creating spectacle. Remember, I talked about creating spectacle can grab a headline. Goes to Tariq Nasheed. I said in the previous episode, the Democratic Party has been using underhanded tricks like getting them alphabet boys to censor and stymie reports that would be bad for the Democratic Party. You weren't allowed to hear about Joe Biden's son's laptop that implicates Joe Biden and his son in some very, very high level corruption charges with other countries. You're not allowed to hear about how the war's really going. You're not allowed to hear about how the you-know-what was really leaked or the efficacy of the you-know-what. I gotta self-redact, y'all. Sorry. That's how the chilling effect works. But it's been pretty clear that the Democratic Party has been very aggressive on censorship, on block list, on manipulating social media platforms to produce the kind of narratives and stories that it wants. It's been very clear about that. And it's been doing that in order to avoid what's known in politics as an October surprise. October surprises are startling bits of information that come out, scandalous news stories, smoking guns, usually things that are hard evidence, meaning it's hard to deny, it's hard to fight back against this story. The evidence is pretty conclusive and extremely damning that you got to fend off late October, right before election time. It's the last thing that people are walking into the polls thinking about. And it's the last thing you want them thinking about. In 2016, it was Hillary Clinton's emails. Sometimes it's medical reports that show you that your presidential candidate isn't in the best of health. In 2016, it was Hillary Clinton's emails and Donald Trump's recordings about grabbing somebody in the you-know-what. Those were the October surprises in 2016. In 2008, the October surprises were Michelle Obama's comments in college and Jeremiah Wright's videotape. It's always something that they had on them the entire time, but it's about waiting for right before the election to drop that information. That can be damning to you because you don't have enough time to PR your way out of it and spin your way out of it. That shit comes out in August, you're fine. It's the timing more than anything. It's an October surprise. And the best way for the Democratic Party to fight off any October surprise was to use them alphabet boys to censor all media. Just as a brief side note, you want to know how tight of a clamp the Democratic Party has had on media with regards to how they handle Joe Biden? And this is going to be a weird thing to look at, but entertainers will understand. Look at comedy. Look at comedy. There's never been a president before Joe Biden where you weren't allowed to make fun of the president. Little things like that should let you know you're in a fascist autocratic state now, just on the low. We've always made fun of our president. That's one of the staples that lets you know we're free, is we can just talk shit about we've thrown shoes at our president before. Sit your ass down. Saturday Night Live, which has been taking a ginormous tumble on the entertainment scale for a few decades now, the one saving grace it would normally have every season, even on rough seasons, dry seasons, was that politics was always a freebie, because the politicians are always doing something dumb that you can recognize, mock, and make fun of. Will Ferrell made his entire career impersonating George W. Bush. His entire career. What's his name? Alec Baldwin played Donald Trump so much, so often, he begged to get out of that shit. He was tired of playing Donald Trump. He played it too well one time, and they made him play that shit every Saturday. Now, when Joe Biden became the president, it looked real promising because they brought Maya Rudolph out. She still looked good. Maya Rudolph out and Jim Carrey. They had Jim Carrey playing Joe Biden, and you knew, oh, this is going to be some fire. He's going to come out doing some Fire Marshal Bill, some Ace Ventura shit. He's going to fall over something, right? Jim Carrey has been forced to play Joe Biden like it's the fucking West Wing. Jim Carrey plays Joe Biden as more esteemed and presidential and well put together than the actual Joe Biden. It's not even a comedy sketch. That's because you're not allowed to make fun of Joe Biden. The second you say something critical or even mocking of Joe Biden, even in a comedic way, it's going to be looked at as what? You're on the other side. It's political gangbanging now. Because the Democratic Party is that scared of the emperor's image being tarnished. They know people aren't really big on him. So they can't even take a joke about him. Remember, during the height of 9/11, there was a brief period during the height of 9/11 where you couldn't make fun of George Bush. But as soon as that dissipated, we was right back in it. For you to put in this much work, stymieing the media, censoring people. There was an article that just came out talking about how the Department of Homeland Security wants social media platforms to get comfy with government, and exposed how they have a direct communication link with all these platforms where they can instantly block people. They have their own platform. They have their own block list that just controls all of Twitter, all of Facebook, all of Instagram. They have secret agreements with certain influencers. Okay, we won't block you as long as you won't say this and that. There was a whole lawsuit that went on that exposed the secret block list that the government has. This is called job owning. It's a very sneaky thing that your government can do to pretend like it doesn't have a connection with the powers that be. It can pretend like, well, Instagram is a private company and they can block whoever they want. But in secretly, they're not blocking whoever they want. They're blocking who the government tells them to block. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to block any Democrats, any Republicans, any racists, any black racists, any Mexican race. Mark Zuckerberg, if you got green, he's willing to let you talk. And now he has to shun 50% of his audience. He has to censor and make it uncomfortable for 50% of his audience. Like that's not going to cost him money. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. These places don't want to start having to change how they operate for politics, when they got to compete with international ass TikTok that's killing all of them, they don't want to do that shit. They're being forced to do it. Your government is putting that onus of blocking people and censoring people on them to make it seem like it doesn't have anything to do with the people getting blocked. No, they're the ones dictating this stuff. And the point of me saying all that is you did all that censorship and all that authoritarian dictatorship shit, turned America into North Korea, blocked third-party candidates from even being able to run, and you're losing that lawsuit, by the way. And Tariq Nasheed is the one that gave you the late October, early November surprise. What am I talking about? You should know good and hell well what I'm talking about. That reparations rally was the death blow for the Democratic Party for the midterms and possibly for the 2024 election. And let me tell you why. And hats off to Tariq. I told you, I said, if Tariq can get just a couple thousand people, a couple of thousand, I think I said 5 to 10,000 people. If Tariq can just get a few thousand people at that rally, it's a wrap. And here's why. What have I been telling you this entire time? We know niggas are not coming to the midterms. What you want to do is put a narrative of why we're not coming. If you don't put a narrative of why we're not coming to the midterms, white folks on the Democratic Party side will be able to spin it as, well, historically, black folks don't really turn out for the midterms. Well, you know, black folks showed up, but they just didn't show up in droves enough to really be able to get it done. It'll be blamed on black folks in a way that'll say we failed. But if you put the why on it first, if you can always control the narrative, if you put the why on it first as to why we're not coming, and we're saying, no, Ron Isley, keep it on the down low. We meant to do that. We did this to you. We left you in the desert, beaten and broken. We meant to do this shit. We intentionally didn't show up. They can't counter that message. They can't counter that message. They don't have the black coon resources to be able to counter that message. And what better way? See, I was just happy with New Black Media reporting on it every day, making stories about it every day. But what better way to show we're not rocking with the Democratic Party than to come out in mass with a rally openly declaring that. I say this a lot, but I'll keep saying it until it's no longer true. Life is coming at you so fast, there's no time for history. Shout out to Russell Brand. I stole your line. You made it a hot line. I made it a hot podcast. So things are happening so fast, there's often not enough time to sit back and reflect on victories and gain lessons from losses. But let me just remind you guys of something that I think is getting forgot real quick. Wasn't there supposed to be multiple other rallies from pop-up people that came out of nowhere around the same time? Wasn't there a rally that was actually backed up by the Democratic Party, not but a few days prior, a week or so prior? Has anybody black heard about a single thing from that rally? Can anybody black type in without Googling? In fact, even if you Google, I don't think you'll find it. You definitely won't find it on page 1. Can anybody tell me anything about the other rallies that were going on? You know why you can't? Because they weren't real rallies. They weren't really there to be rallies. They were there to cause distraction. They were there to confuse black people on what date was this thing going on and when was it supposed to happen, and discourage black people. And it failed. It failed. Tariq's rally went on without a hitch. And for those who have never put on an event, especially a politically active event like this, especially a politically active event that goes against the powers that be, you have no idea. You have no idea how difficult it is to throw one of these things without them people sending agent provocateurs to instigate and disrupt and throw it into chaos. You have no idea how hard it is. So for something like that to go off without a hitch, lets you know Tariq put in that work. That was a big event. I didn't even see the floor. When you see pictures of that, all you see is afros, fades, and braids. You see black people as far as the eye can see in every direction. There was black businesses getting supported out there and getting paid. There was a lot of black networking. And see, another thing that happens when you get a lot of black people together on some positive, focused, issue-focused stuff like that is you start to look around and see you a little deeper than you thought you were. It's called galvanizing. You start to look around and realize there's a lot of people that look like you, that think like you. And you start to figure out, how can we multiply and build momentum? You just showed the entire country, when these midterm numbers come out and the black folks didn't show up, it's not because we didn't care or we were aloof or we weren't involved or weren't in the loop. It's because we actively looked at who our options were and said, let's just throw away our cards and play the next round. No more lesser of two evils. No more us voting to save democracy over saving ourselves. We'll let the whole damn thing burn down. Let it all burn down. Who cares? Because it makes no difference to us anyway. You came out and you gave a voice to black people. Because if you don't put a voice on the narrative, if you don't get ahead of the narrative, they'll make a narrative for you. And they'll paint you as lazy and didn't come through and didn't, quote unquote, do your part. No, we did our part. Our part was to let y'all burn out. We doing this shit like Katniss Everdeen. If we burn, then you burn with us. That's the new strategy for leading up to the midterms. And now that Tariq Nasheed has delivered that late October, early November surprise, that late October surprise is like pushing somebody down the stairs. Like there's no way to recover. We caught you off balance at a very vulnerable position. And now as you tumble down them stairs, I want you to realize you could have avoided all this by just giving black people something. You didn't want to hand over reparations right away. That's fine. We know white folks will never let you live that down, Democratic Party, but you could have slid us a little shum like you did everybody else. And normally you would get away with that because our black leadership is illiterate and inept and don't know how to fight. But black folks are officially under new management. See, when I'm talking about the coon class being disrupted by this, I'm not just talking about the Roland Martins and the Tiffany Crosses and the Joy Reids. Side note, Joy Reid knows her ass is next on the chopping block. We're not just talking about those people. We're talking about every member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Every member of the Congressional Black Caucus, your ass is on the line this year. Not just for this midterm. A lot of you will survive this midterm. But remember, congressmen and women only run for 2 years. Which means by the time the general elections come around in 2 years, there will still be a lot of Congressional Black Caucus members running for re-election. This midterm, which the Democratic Party will lose badly, this midterm is the dress rehearsal. Once this midterm comes and goes, and it's clear that not only did the Democrats lose badly, but they lost badly because the black vote shunned them. The Democratic Party will finally realize that the black vote is serious. That'll be the narrative leading all the way up to 2024. Will the black vote show up? Have we gone too far? How do we earn the black vote's trust? And you're already starting to see inklings of that. Most of it's insincere, but it is a step, right? The Democratic Party is still in the damn Gina, fine, I will marry you phase with the black vote. We ain't got them bringing out Brian McKnight and shit yet at the park, but we will get there. But right now, you see light kowtowing to the black vote. You see, and how you know this is because normally the first step with handling the black vote is don't even mention black people, benign neglect. Now you're starting to see them have to mention black people and specifically black men by name. Now it started with shunning and shame at first. Don't listen to Tariq, fall in line with black women, but they're realizing that shit don't work. And I want to give hats off to black men. I try to stay out of the gender war bullshit because a lot of it's irrelevant, but I will speak on it when it is important. And I'm going to be honest. A lot of black women aren't going to like to hear this, but black men are showing black women how to politic because you don't know how. Black men are showing black women how to politic. You see how quickly that shame fell apart when you show them we ain't got no shame? Oh, you black men are working with the... Yep. You black men have an identity. Yep. You black men. Yep. Okay, what do you guys want? That's what we thought. The first phase is always to try to shame you. When that don't work, the second phase is to try to lie to you by freaking with the definitions of things. Oh, yeah, we're going to go ahead and give you a Frederick Douglass plan for... Okay, so what's the plan actually include for black people? Well, nothing, but we named it after Frederick Douglass because they want the appearance of giving you something while not really giving you anything. It's a step in the right direction. It's a small little stutter step, but it's a step in the right direction. And when you hold out from that, like black men are doing, then here comes the articles of why black men aren't voting and what's going on and what do black men want. What you notice, and I want black women to take note of this. They tried to use you against us, but when black men didn't fall for it, look how quickly they dropped you. See, black women in politics fell for something. They thought they were a special breed of black people that were above the rest of black society. And what you don't realize is black women are not above black men in politics, and black men are not above black women in politics. The second we split from each other, we have no power. Black people's power comes from being together, not in a hand in hand, buy the world a Coke fake kind of way, but in a we got to all be back to back with our swords out going to battle together or we're going to die together kind of way. And black men are showing black women, you're going to get behind us or you're going to get left. Because the second they realize you can't bring us along, just like those coons on MSNBC, you become worthless to the Democratic Party. If the black woman vote voted at 100% and the black male vote went down 10%, the black vote ain't shit. So you fell for your own hype and thought it was all about black. No. You were only valuable because it was assumed that black women could control black men into voting. This whole thing was possible because black men were largely just kind of aloof and following the women. And the women were doing whatever the Democratic Party told them to do. But now that black men are politically active again, black men ain't really been politically active like this since like the late 60s up to maybe the late 70s. And black women started becoming really politically active and being put at the forefront of the black community by about 2000. And it's been downhill ever since. Because you guys only really care about symbolism and inclusion. It's not about anything tangible. It's not about what do we get. It's about how do we get closer to y'all. It's not a critique. It's just reality. And now that you got black men that are saying, we're willing to be the bad guy. We're willing to be the one you blame this on. See, when you blame somebody for doing something, if you say the Democratic Party would have won if it wasn't for black men, what you're also saying is black men have the power to get the Democratic Party in, but refuse to do so. Why? Now you got to come to the dinner table with us. So black women, you're left with two choices. Be left out in the cold with the Democratic Party because you can't control your men. Or, and this is a crazy idea, get behind your men against the Democratic Party. And I'll be honest with you. Black men have realized it makes us no difference. We get what we want either way. If you don't get behind us, that's cool. We all go down together. Go ask Tiffany Cross. If you do get behind us, we win. But we're prepared to die on the battlefield. You guys aren't. You guys don't like discomfort. You guys have gotten used to being arm in arm with Becky. See, as much as black men get accused of being in love with white women, black men, some of us sleep with white women. Some of us marry white women. Black women, by and large, you guys have almost symbiotically combined with and been absorbed by white society. You know who I can't stand seeing? Brianna Joy Gray. Brianna Joy Gray is an intelligent black female lawyer. She has a podcast, but that woman would not believe she was black if you sat her down and forced her to eat catfish. If you sat that woman down and forced her to understand her chronological history and her DNA and showed her Mama Lou Jeffrey and Billy Joe and all them niggas in her family and showed the cotton that they picked, she would still believe she's a person of color. Completely worthless to the black movement. Any kind of black issue comes up on the Hill and it goes to Brianna Joy Gray, and she will find a way to whimsically, eloquently siphon the racial aspect out of it to make her white counterparts more comfortable. We have a lot of those type of people in black political office. And black men are the ones leading the charge saying no more of this shit. Now, this isn't a bash on black women. There's a lot of black women that are down. There's a lot of black women that are leading the charge and saying no more with this Democratic Party. But the black men are being picked upon and focused on as the cause for the Democratic Party's downfall. And the black men, we're being courageous enough to say, yeah, nigga, that's us. Like I said, Ron Isley, I did this to you, right? Yeah, damn right we did it. And what are you going to do about it? What you going to do? Bring back slavery? What you going to do about it? You can't switch to the Hispanics. See, this is something that we need to start taking notes on. The Democratic Party's entire strategy, long term, and Coulter told you, they're going to ditch the blacks for the Hispanics. The Hispanics are a rising number of people. We're going to jump ahead of that. We're going to start kowtowing to these Latinos, and we're going to ditch the blacks. And what did you learn? The Hispanics want to be white folks, and they want to be Republicans. At best, all you can do is split the Latino vote, which puts you right back at square one with the Republicans. And guess what that means? It means you got to buy dope from us. You got to come back to the niggas every time. There's no escape from niggerdom. No escape. We're the Raven in that Edgar Allan Poe novel. There's no escape. Nevermore. And black men are telling you, you ain't going to get it for free. You try to play us. You try to go buy it from the other side. Now it's going to be tax on that brick. The price of the brick's going up. So now that I've told you what was going to happen, you can go back and listen to all my episodes from going back from the real problem with the black community, where I was saying lack of black leadership in politics. I told you how to deal with this, which was to not vote, to have a consistent political narrative of why we're not voting on new black media. Black media outdid itself. Gave you consistent coverage on how bad the Democratic Party sucks for black people, how bad immigration sucks for black people, and and capped it off with a damn Million Man March. Bravo, New Black Media. Bravo. Had a whole revolt show detailing a black agenda. See, this is how you know black politics has been dead for decades. There hasn't been a black agenda in decades. The black voter has been used for everything but a black agenda for the last 30 years. We've been fighting for gay rights and Afghanistans and Ukrainians and white women and people that have humpbacks and shit for the last 30 years, especially since '08. But now you got black men in politics saying, no, we're going to hold our vote back. We don't care if it brings the black women down. If you guys lose your little seat at the white women's sisterhood banquets and shit, and they try to shame you because you didn't bring your husbands in, oh, the hell well. You need to be brought down a peg, black women. You need to be brought down a peg. You need to see these people really aren't your friends. You need to see that. White women got behind their white men and voted for Donald Trump. Did they not? White women got behind their husbands and voted for Donald Trump against a fellow white woman. And nobody ever talks about that. You ever notice that? White women walked over to Susan B. Anthony's grave and put a sticker that said, I voted, but left out the part for Trump. Right? White women did that. You can't blame that on black women or women of color or minority women. White women, lily white women did that shit. And nobody shunned them because you get to vote for who you get to vote for. It's your American right. But oh, when it gets to niggas, what are you doing with that vote we gave you? You got to always let white folks talk when they get upset. The real portion of what they're trying to say comes out. And what the reality of it is when it comes to votes, when it comes to just walking around and not being hung, when it comes to dating their women, when it comes to even making money, white folks view that as a privilege that they're allowing niggas to have. That's why white folks get so mad when you got NFL and NBA holdouts for contracts. They be like, we gave you generational wealth. We gave you an opportunity. They're trying to say, nigga, we gave you reparations. We gave you a mini reparations package and you're trying to negotiate for more. They don't look at it like you're a once in a lifetime talent that's bringing value to their product. They're looking at it like this is a charity event. No, it's not. They don't really look at it like that, but that's part of the game. They sell you that you're ungrateful if you don't just take what we give you. And it's the same with your vote. How are you going to have a white person telling you that your ancestors died for the right to vote? No. My ancestors died because your ancestors killed them. They was just trying to have a right to live. That was the only right they was fighting for. They should have had to fight for that, right? Let's keep things in perspective. Let's not act like everything was going swell, but just that voting was off limits and niggas was crawling over minefields. Like, no, that's not what they died over. We got to quit letting white folks shame us with our history when we know the real history. White folks will shame you. Look at you, dishonoring Martin Luther King's dream. Didn't you niggas kill him? I could have sworn y'all killed him. Like, shouldn't you guys be the ones that got to bear that shame about Martin Luther King? Like, didn't you kill everybody with a K back in this? Like RFK, JFK, MLK? Hey, KKK. You can't shame us for... Martin Luther King would be spinning in his grave. No. Martin Luther King would be 80 something years old and not in a grave if y'all didn't kill him. Let's make the Thanksgiving table awkward, right? Let's keep the truth out there. You got white folks on the right talking about free speech until you start bringing up shit like that, and then they're on the same censorship wagon as the left. Now, black men are taking the political lead in the black community again, and it's beautiful. We found the way to say, black women, you can't force us to do shit. We're going to sit home and not vote in this midterm. Y'all can talk all the shit about us that you want to your white friends in the Democratic Party. But what you don't realize you're doing is giving us all the power when you do that. Because what you're telling them is we can't control them anymore. And if you can't control the beast anymore, if you can't control black men anymore, you're forcing the Democratic Party to have to come over and deal with us directly, thus cutting you out of the argument. Black men and the Democratic Party both know one thing. Black women, you're going to capitulate and get behind us, or we're all going to go down. And of the two of us, there's only one group that's not willing to go down. That's you. You've gotten comfortable. You like being represented online. You like being on TV shows like How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal. You like being that. You like having a Tiffany Cross on MSNBC. You don't give a damn what she's actually doing up there or how much damage she's doing to us as a people. You just like being represented. I'm going to give you another clue that black men have been more in charge than you think. Remember, a bunch of high-ranking black women wrote a letter to the Democratic Party saying, we demand that you put a black woman in as vice president. And that shit, not only did it get ignored and disregarded, Joe Biden went out of his way to put Stacey Abrams on TV just to let you know, it ain't you, bitch. I'm not putting no black woman in no, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not that demented. Well, then, Joey, how the hell did we get a black female vice president? Because a bunch of high-ranking black male celebrities, entertainers, and influencers backed up that letter. See, as bad of a rap as black women give black men have always been loyal to black women when it comes to this race shit. Even though we have problems with each other. Black women act like Martin Luther King said, I have a dream that only niggas can have freedom. Like we never said that shit. But black women speak all the time of how they're a separate political group. Look at how mad Vivica A. Fox and black women on Fox Soul got at Ice Cube for just talking to the Republican Party. And they flat out said, no, we have different needs and we're a different group of people. Okay. How's that working out for you now? Because now that they're seeing that black men said, all right, we'll fall back and you do your own thing. You ain't getting that much headway, are you? And again, this isn't to bash black women. If black men were out here doing this kind of bullshit, I'd be just as hard on the black men and I would be giving the same report for black women saying, make these niggas get behind you. If black women were doing something that was undermining black men politically, but it was benefiting the black community as a whole, I'd say that it sucks, but shit, it's working. But no, we're in a situation that doesn't work and it's been led by black women and it hasn't worked. So black men have broken off and we've said, you can get behind us. This is how we're going to deal with the party from now on. And a lot of black women are behind it. Most black women are cool. The women that have been given the largest voice in the Democratic Party is the small contingency of black women and black men who are not cool with the black community. That's by design. A majority of Africans are cool. Most of y'all are cool. I got a problem with a bunch of Africans, but the ones that are handpicked to allow it to be over here are the non-cool ones. That's the problem. So now that we're weeding and seeding a lot of that out and going, nope, we're leaving those niggas to die. We're leaving them niggas with no air, no oxygen, no water, and no resources. They are excommunicated from niggatry. If you want to deal with black folks, if you want the black vote, you got to come talk to actual black folks. You can't go through Roland Martin. You can't go through Marsha Warfield or what's her name? Donna Brazile. Forgive me, I really called her Marsha. I didn't even mean to do that. But anyway, you can't go through Tiffany Cross. You can't go through Joy Reid. You can't go through Don Lemon. Look at all the coons being demoted. Don Lemon don't got his primetime show no more. Tiffany Cross gone. It's going to be a culling of the coons. It's going to be a pickaninny purge in a minute. It's going to be really bad post midterms. Now let me tell you what's going to happen next and what our next move needs to be. We've already got this first victory in the bag. One of two things is going to happen this midterm. And I think it's only going to be one thing. It's going to be if the Democratic Party plays it fair and square. See, the Democratic Party is playing with fire right now, and they're very, very nervous. I told you last episode I had to allude to it. I can't be too overt. I got 2 strikes left. You don't want people. At this point, I'm not even talking about black people. It's people. Wink, wink. You don't want your American people to feel like their vote does not count. You don't want the American people to feel like they went in and voted for X and all the signs were pointing to X. And we're talking about a big X wave coming and all your approval numbers for Y are low and magically Y wins in a landslide. If that happens, that'll be borderline worse than Democrats losing, because there you will have anarchy and chaos and violence in the streets. This is why they're so scared of that last election, was because Donald Trump was able to whip people into a frenzy of your vote didn't count. That's why they're so scared of that. So these tight elections are very dangerous. You look at most countries and you look at when civil war breaks out. Civil war usually always breaks out over elections because half the people don't agree with the election results. I thought my tribe leader was going to win. Oh shit, your tribe leader won? Oh, he's going to show favoritism to your tribe. Nigga, let's have a war. That's how that happens over all cultures, is usually a civil war breaks out over elections. Breaks out over politics. Now, everything's pointing to a red wave. So if a red wave don't happen, everything's pointing to a red wave, and your only saving grace was the black vote. And the black vote just came out in mass and said, we not coming. And there's no way to spin that. There's no way to spin that and say, well, the black vote just couldn't do it this year. No. The black vote went through the trouble of driving miles. There were people that called and said they drove 10 hours from Illinois, from Newark, New Jersey, from South Carolina, from Atlanta, from Alabama to drive to D.C. just to come to a rally saying, we not voting for you niggas. So you're not going to be able to say they weren't enthusiastic. Oh, they were enthusiastic, all right. They were showing their ass about how they're not coming out for you. There's going to be no way for the Democratic Party to spin this. Now, what we do next, and when I say next, I mean post-midterm. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to envision waking up in the morning and you're watching whatever local news network you like to watch or whatever, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. I don't watch those channels to see what's happening. I watch those channels to see how they're going to spin what's happening, right? I would advise you to watch one of each. Watch CNN and Fox, or watch MSNBC and Fox the next day after the midterms. And what you're going to see is the following. You're going to see the Democratic Party trying to manage the loss. They're going to be going over the exit polls. And you will know we have won if the big topic all day is where was the black vote. You don't want them to casually say, well, yeah, the black vote didn't show up. You want them to be like, these numbers don't make sense. These numbers don't make sense. The black vote looks like the Republican Party was able to gain some ground with the black vote in a number of key states. Looks like black voter registration went up tenfold, but they just didn't show up. Yeah, there's a lot of odd write-in candidates that are being put in. Who's this Marcel Dixon guy? Why is he put in for everything on all these different states? He wasn't even running in New York. Complete chaos where they almost can't even read the numbers or understand. What happened to the black vote? You want them to be saying the black male vote for the Democratic Party went down considerably this year. The black female vote dipped down as well. You want them being concerned with what happened to their Negroes. You want to hear the news stories about how badly the Democratic Party has lost. And it's bad, y'all. Right now, the Democratic Party is fighting to keep hold of California and New York. Traditional, deep blue Democratic strongholds are under threat from the Republican Party. That's how bad it is for the Democratic Party this year, y'all. If we don't know how to ride a wave like this, I don't know what to tell you. So they're going to be bewildered by how bad the numbers are going to be. You're going to watch that. Then in the next coming weeks, because this is a very, very hot election, the Democratic Party has already made moves anticipating Trump's going to be the guy for the Republicans, so we need to start attacking him early. They've made this entire midterm election about January 6th, something that most Americans don't even give a shit about. They made the entire election about January 6th. And will have lost. So that will be a statement on the Democratic Party that the American people would rather have this thing that you painted as the end of democracy than your democracy, right? How do you spin that as a Democratic Party? You've been calling half the country deplorables, the enemy, not legitimate. And now they've democratically won. How do you keep your side from doing something stupid? How do you keep your side from pulling a Son of Sam? You can't. And the Democratic Party has shown time and time again how irresponsible it is and how quickly it is to use inflammatory tactics and jargon in order to whip its fan base into a frenzy. We seem to forget. You mentioned the validity of the 2020 election. You get a strike, you get suspended, you get in trouble. But if you flat out say that the 2016 election was rigged by Russian hackers and Donald Trump is an illegitimate president and he's not your president, you get a gold star from social media. So what do you think is going to happen if he wins again? Or if the midterms go really bad for the Democratic Party? What kind of a fit do you think they're going to throw? You can't just lay down and have a concession and have a concession speech for somebody that you just called Hitler. You can't just sign the country over to Hitler, can you? That would make you an appeaser. This is how countries end up having civil war. You drum up the rhetoric so high, but you can't back it up with action. The Democratic Party is going to have to walk a fine line in the next 2 years with how to use that rhetoric without going too far. They're going to have to moonwalk and walk back that rhetoric because you blew your wad telling your people that democracy itself was on the line against the enemy, and your people voted for the enemy. The second these Republicans get their numbers up and get in Congress, I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen and how we can benefit. Best believe there's going to be investigations on investigations on investigations on Joe Biden and his son. Joe Biden will have officially entered lame duck sessions now, to where as a Democratic president surrounded by Republicans, you won't be able to do shit. You're going to be on the heels of your feet playing defense, playing veto goalkeeper. The Republican Party is going to be trying to pass everything it can pass, and the only thing you can do is veto shit now. And Lord help you if they get to where they can't be vetoed, where they get a supermajority. Remember, the Republicans already have the Supreme Court. They will have the House and Senate, well, the House, possibly the Senate. And in 2024, unless the Democratic Party can pull off that indictment on Donald Trump, And to be honest with you, even if they don't run Trump, if they run somebody that's a Trump light, if they run Ron DeSantis, if they run Tom Cotton, they still got a chance to beat their mentally inept, demented Joe Biden that people don't like, with a Kamala Harris kicker as the backup. That's a bad poker hand. So you're looking at a potential Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican Supreme Court, and Republican presidency. There's no way to play that off. So you're going to have the Democratic Party making consistent, and you will have never seen this before. Normally, after a midterm election, the presidential election campaigning doesn't round up until about the end of the third year for the president, for the incumbent. But this year, watch, you're going to see day one after midterms, there's going to be a push and an appeal to the black voter. How do we get the black vote back? All the numbers show you you're never going to get enough of the Hispanic vote for that to be an edge for you. Demographics is not destiny. The gay vote melts away and just becomes white people unless it's a gay issue. Same with Asians. Same with everybody else. The only group that votes all one way or it doesn't vote at all is black folks. We're the tie-breaking vote every time. Everybody else splits at about 45-55 Republican. Everybody else. So you're going to have to come to the table with black folks in a minute. And I don't know how you're going to be able to deal with it because we're not bending on shit. What needs to happen now, after this midterm, when they start the ass kissing, is I need new black media and I've said this before. I've been consistent. This has been the same plan since the day Joe Biden got elected. I saw what it was. After the midterms, that's where you need to start getting preparations to build an army of Marcel Dixons. Why now? Because like I said, by the time the presidential election comes, there's going to be a lot of congressional black Congress members running for office again. A lot of them are going to be on the ballot. A lot of them are going to be on the ballot. And you want them very uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to say this right now so that there's no misconception. 90 to 99% of your Marcel Dixon army is going to lose. If they win, yay, that's cool. You got somebody in office for 2 years. But don't look for anybody who happens to get elected as being able to do anything because you're not a collective yet. One or two of you got in. The rest of them coons are going to play against you. You're not really going to be able to do anything in office. That's not the point. Listen very, very careful to what I'm about to say as far as what our strategy is. Our goal for running all of these Marcel Dixons is not for them to win per se. Our goal for running all of these Marcel Dixons is so that the Democratic Party has to play defense against all of these Marcel Dixons. That puts them in a very bad position during the general election. I said earlier, in politics, you never want to be in a position where you have to go curry favor with and get the enthusiasm up and earn your base back. You're supposed to be using your base to get people that are undecided. If your reputation precedes you, if your name rang out hard enough with your base will be enthusiastic enough to be telling people that are undecided about you. You should be focusing your energies on reaching out to those undecideds. But if you, during election time, got to go back into your own house and get your own team on the same accord, you might as well not even come out the tunnel. You're not ready to play. And nothing is going to put the Democratic Party in a position of having to shore up its own base than having to actually go run campaigns, no matter how small, in places that are normally Democratic strongholds. Marcel Dixon, even having to be mentioned with Jim Clyburn, was a black eye on Jim Clyburn. So imagine Marcel Dixon's all up and down Democratic stronghold districts. That shows that you're having a civil war with the black vote. You know what that's going to do when Republicans see that? They're going to start campaigning towards black folks a little bit. And just like we know that most of our Marcel Dixon army, we're going to call it the Dixon army now. Just like we know that our Dixon army is not really going to win because they're not designed to win, the Republicans understand that spending a little bit of money to try to get at some black votes isn't really going to bear any fruit. But what it is going to do, and the Republicans understand politics, if I'm the Republican Party and I see a normally Democratic deep blue district in contention, or even looks like they're having a problem with an incumbent over there, and I go put a little money and advertise over there to those black folks in that area, guess what that means? That means that the Democratic Party got to turn around and spend even more money on that area. I think we kind of forgot about 2016, where Hillary Clinton had certain areas that she thought were such Democratic strongholds that she called a firewall, that she didn't even campaign in those locations. And she lost them areas because they were waiting to hear from her. And she didn't even put up a strong argument over there because she just looked at the numbers and said, I'm good there. I'm going to go to these purple districts. I'm going to go over to these spots where I got to go win people. And like I said earlier, she didn't realize that she had to shore up her base. And she lost. That's the real reason she lost. But they don't want to admit that. It was arrogance and oversight. You never want to be in a position where you got to go back and retrace your steps and repeat and reiterate and put in more effort to your base. You've lost. What we're trying to do right now is cost the Democratic Party dearly. Makes no difference to us if a Republican or a Democrat is the president right now. It's the same pain. But we can cause the Democratic Party a little pain to get their ass in line. The Democratic Party has not known for a long time what it's like to not have the black vote. Look at Obama right now. Obama, in case y'all don't remember, is no longer running for any political office. Obama's supposed to have been retired. Remember, Obama couldn't be bothered when black folks was trying to reach out to him about anything. He was out there skinny dipping with the dude that owns Virgin Mobile and shit. And not his wife. And Obama has been living his best life, living in his truth since the election. They got Obama's ass out here in these black ass districts acting like he's running for presidency again. He out here talking hope and change again to try to give black people those nostalgic member berries and make us harken back to the good old times. But what the Democratic Party doesn't realize is the Obama effect ain't what it used to be. The shit ain't moving the numbers. It ain't moving the needle. And I got to admit, Obama is out there orating his ass off. The nigga could write a speech. I can't hate on that. He's out there making an argument, but he's working himself into a frenzy because you can't have Joe Biden do that shit. Joe Biden barely knows his middle name. Joe Biden don't know how his son was killed. He's out of it. He's just a suit. He's an empty husk. He don't even leave his basement half the time. So you can't have him out there campaigning on the trail and being a cult of personality. He don't got a personality. Not a good one. Not an inspiring one. So you had to go back to Barack Obama. And I got to be honest with you, too little, too late. And that's going to be another feather in our cap. Because when the midterms come, they're going to mention that. Damn, they had Obama out there on the trail in all the black areas and niggas still didn't show up. Now what has to be done post midterm is two things for the black community. Number one, new black media. It's time to start putting together a list of tangibles. We need to draft our own agenda package. There needs to be a Ice Cube had it right. He had a contract with Black America. To be honest with you, if we want to be lazy about it, we don't got to revise a damn thing. We can just have Ice Cube go right back up there and be like I said, are you guys ready to come to the table with this contract for Black America now? We want to get you guys on record saying you support something we want done. No more talking about how the black community is politically toxic and we can't mention you niggas by name and we can't give you guys anything because if we do, then the Republican Party will come. I don't give a damn. If any of you niggas want to get elected ever again, you got to sign on to this contract with Black America. We will not be voting for people who have not signed this contract. That's what everybody else does to these candidates. You know that, right? The Tea Party and shit, any Republican that wants to get elected in certain areas, they got to go up and kiss the Tea Party's ring and sign on to their agenda and say, hey, we agree to uphold to these ideals. So that when you're voting for a Republican, that's why they call him a rhino, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only. I'm not just a rhino. I really believe in these ideals. And if you vote for me, I'll uphold to these things. And the second they don't uphold to a statute in their agreement, oh, that nigga's gone. That's how you're supposed to do it. We make all these potential candidates, and I'm going to be clear. You make everybody sign it. Anybody who wants to run in the party got to sign that shit. I don't care if you guys are running against each other. Both of y'all got to sign it, and we're going to sit back and vote for who looks like we believe them the most. You got to kiss that pinky ring. But we need to come up with a list of tangibles. We cannot trust these buffoons and these liars to keep giving us, well, how about this, black folks? How about this Frederick Douglass plan? How about free Nikes on Tuesday? No. You're going to agree to this, this, and this, or we're not even coming out to vote for you. That's number one. And number two is we need to start vetting and developing our own candidates for 2024. We don't care if they don't win. The purpose for them is not to win. The purpose for them is to make the Democratic Party have to account for them, meaning you got to run campaigns, you got to do speeches, you got to do debates. You have to spend time, effort, energy, and resources on this threat that's in every district that you normally have a shoe in for. Every district that you normally can rubber stamp and go, well, we're going to win that. We're going to win that. No, everything's in question now. Louds County, Alabama is in competition now. We don't know who's going to win that shit. DC, Atlanta, all these black spots that you just thought was just a wrap because, oh, well, they're black, they're going to vote Democrat. We don't know what these niggas are going to do today. We have no idea. And they got a candidate of their own that seems more appealing. I'm going to repeat for a fourth time just so we're all on the same page. 99% of these candidates will lose. They will lose their elections. That's not the point. Remember, Jim Clyburn was beating his chest, feeling real victorious when he won his election, all the while not realizing he had to spend more money on his election and more effort on his election than he had ever done so before in his entire career. And because Jim Clyburn is a dumb coon, he doesn't realize that the Democratic National Committee is looking at that, going, damn, it's harder to get this nigga elected than normally. It cost more money for this coon than it normally does. We need to replace him. Remember, I said this. Jim Clyburn is getting put out to saddle in 2 years. They're going to have some young, fresh, vibrant coon in his place to pick up the good coon fight. He's not a seller anymore. People aren't buying that stock no more. All of these, Sheila Jackson Lee, Maxine Watt, everybody's out their way, out the door with a good old heave-ho. It's nice to know you. Bobby Rush, you can go too. All you niggas can go. Every last one of you didn't do a damn thing. Just sat there as a black placeholder, like a damn doily on a counter. You didn't do nothing for black people this entire time you were in office, but be a black smiling coony face in a high place. Didn't pass one piece of legislation. Y'all was all 50 votes of rubber stamps for Missy Ann Pelosi. That's all you niggas ever did. And it's time for every last one of you to go. And in the meantime, in between time, what we're going to do is flood all your campaigns with opposition. We're going to flood all your campaigns with primaries. We're going to flood all your campaigns with candidates you got to run against. And I'm going to go into more detail about this in the next episode because, like I said, a lot of your candidates are going to quote unquote lose, but that's not the point. The point is making the Democrat, remember, these people, these congressional Black Caucus members are nothings. They're specks of dust on the big battle board. Your real opposition is the National Committee, is the parties itself. And by making the Democratic Party have to contest everything on the board, you're forcing the Democratic Party to have to spread its resources thin. I don't think black people, I don't think we realize how much of an advantage we give the Democratic Party by just letting them rubber stamp us all the time. Every 4 years, every 2 years, the Democratic Party can save all of its money by not diverting any funds to any black campaigns because they know the black folks are just going to vote for these congressional Black Caucus members. They know the black folks are just going to vote Democrat. But if they got to actually start spending money in these black districts on these black ass campaigns, if they got to actually start worrying if they're going to lose, if they got to actually start sending Obama and sending black celebrities and sending their big guns over to these black districts that are normally shoe-ins that they don't even got to look at, guess what that means for places that actually are in contention? Guess what that means for places that actually are being hotly contested? You're not going to be able to focus on them as well as you want to, and you're going to lose some of them. It's like boxing. You don't just go in the ring swinging and throwing haymakers. You're going to get knocked out. You go in there and you set up a plan. I want to hit him in his jaw. I want to tap him in his jaw, but this guy's not stupid. He's got his guard up. How do I get him to put his guard down? I set up body shots. These are all body shots. These are body shots. I'm hitting you with these body shots, not because I'm thinking I'm going to knock you out in one punch with a liver punch. It would be nice, but because I'm trying to get you to put your hands down. Now, if you're a dumb boxer and I keep coming at you with body shots and you keep successfully blocking them and putting your hands down, you're thinking, I'm winning. This nigga keeps trying to hit me with a body shot. I keep blocking that shit. But you're not realizing my goal isn't to hit you in the body. My goal is to get you to lower your hands. And maybe around the 10th punch, when you think I'm coming for the body and here this nigga come with a body punch, I'm about to block this shit. And you put your hands down, surprise, it's a left hook. Good night. Good night. You didn't see the strategy. We have a big advantage as black people in the fact that white folks in political offices think we are stupid. We need to Denmark VC that, play into that. Oh, we's just out here voting. We's voting blue no matter who, massa. And then we run candidates against them. They're going to think we're winning. Look at how happy Jim Clyburn was. He was talking big shit. All the while not realizing, you idiot, you just played into our hand. Marcel Dixon was a test run. You know how many black folks walked away from that Marcel Dixon campaign, rubbing their chins like goddamn Megatron, going, Didn't realize it was that easy to run someone against one of these fools. Let's do this in every black district. Every black district. It's totally going to change the battle board. They're not going to know what to do. And you have the power at that point. Picture having the Democratic Party over a barrel like that. They got to out here and get the Democratic Party in 2024 got to go out there and spend ad money in Biloxi, Mississippi, and East St. Louis, Illinois. You got to spend election money that you was going to go spend in Connecticut and Delaware and Vermont. You got to go do that shit in Dallas, Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth. You got to do that shit in Columbus, South Carolina. Why are we sending campaign money to Bankhead? Well, the niggers are running somebody against our guy. You got to do all that across the board. Your board is on fire. And on the other side, you got black folks saying, or you can just have all your congressional black caucus members and all your Democratic Party candidates that are running sign on to this contract with America. We'll call everything off. Sign on to this contract with America that says your candidates are going to do X, Y, and Z. You guys are going to push this initiative that we came up with. You guys are going to back this. You guys will put this into law. This thing that we've already written up and lobbied for. You guys are going to back this and quit resisting this. We'll stop primarying you. We'll get quote unquote back in line. That, my friends, is called silver or lead. Plata y plomo. You're going to take this good little bribe, or you're going to catch this hot one, politically speaking, of course. This is how you give somebody an ultimatum. You got to give people the carrot and the stick at the same time. We haven't spanked the Democratic Party in a long time. We haven't spanked the Democratic Party since the Civil War. We owe them an ass whooping. The disrespect done gone on too far. You let Joe Biden say on air, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. You better get behind the Hispanics. No more talking about corn pop or the hairs shooting up on your leg. No more sniffing in the scent of the hair of 13-year-old little girls, Joe Biden. We going to talk brass tacks. You going to pay what you owe. Bitch nigga. Oh, bitch ass nigga. You going to pay what you owe. And there's literally no way we can lose this, because we know going in, our candidates aren't designed to win these. Keep it real. If some of our candidates won the elections, we'd be like, oh, shit. Wait, whoop. I didn't expect this nigga to get in. Right. Right. Whoops. To be honest with you, this dude, I think he got a criminal record. Hey, whatever. Right. We're not really running to win. We're running so that they lose. We're running out their clock. We're costing them a turn. We're a thorn. Our strategy is to literally be a thorn in their side. And if they want it to stop, sign the contract. That's what our strategy needs to be moving forward to get what we want. We have them right where we want them. If you turn on the midterm election results, if you tune into YouTube, this is going to be the spin time now. Democrats are going to try to spin this into this isn't that bad. The Republicans are going to try to spin this into this is a giant victory for us. Both sides are going to be trying to argue on the reality of the moment. It's going to be pretty hard to argue against the blacks are no longer with you. We need to make this entire run up to 2024 a campaign on how to get the black vote back. Signing off.